By now, you've heard of the mud floods, right? Well, if you have, hang on. I gotta show you something, and if you haven't, well, you should stick around too. First, I want to show you actual evidence of said mud flood with things like this, of these windows built literally into the ground. This is St. Mary's Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and just wait till you see the rest of this and how this building used to be much lower. You see, not only does the construction of this building not make any sense, where windows are literally built into the ground and stairs are built way up to the top, even though the windows are built into the ground, and it seemed like it used to be on a much lower level and some of this stuff was just added. But come on, the intricacies of this limestone building built in the early 1900s, things don't add up. And I'm going to give you a theory of what I think happened with the mud flood, and it's based on very, very recent events. Recent events of the multiple hurricanes that have hit Florida in just the past few weeks, when there's also another hurricane supposedly on the way. Look at this. There used to be a pool here. There was a pool buried in the ground, and this sand and mud is halfway up the building. Kind of reminds me a lot of the images of the mud floods you see. If you look up mud floods, you're going to see a whole lot of images like this, including buildings in Washington that are half covered in mud. And if you spend any time whatsoever, even on Google, researching the patents that governments have for creating weather and how some of them are very, very old, it makes you wonder, maybe some very devastating weather came through the entire United States and in fact the entire world over and over and over again and covered the entire landscape in dozens of feet of mud. To me, it's not out of the realm of possibilities, especially when you know they do have their finger on the button. It is that easy. But of course, I know the mud flood is just some sort of conspiracy that didn't actually exist, and it definitely isn't to cover up a certain millennial reign of a certain person. And that even though we didn't have the technology to build beautiful structures like this in the early 1900s, late 1800s, we still figured out how. We just weren't smart enough to figure out not to bury half the windows in the ground and then also have to build a giant staircase up to the door. We were smart enough to figure out how to do that, but not smart enough how to not cover the windows with half of the landscape. This is all for entertainment purposes, of course. You know me, I'm a satire account.